Did Erika Kirk unalive her husband for $150 million? And did Syrian dictator's wife, Asma Assad, poison her husband for money? Materialism gone to the extreme. Maria Musani, how do you do? Some of you ladies voiced concern that when you keep seeing evil ladies win, and ladies who break the rules win, even Lauren Sanchez, as much as I like her, she's technically a homewrecker, right? Who broke the marriage of Jeff Bezos, who has children, and her own marriage to get married. And when you see ladies who are rule breakers always winning, and utterly evil ladies always winning, some of you asked me, is kindness naivety? And is being a decent person and moral outdated in an immoral world? Well, this world is immoral. However, being a decent person is not outdated. The big problem lies in over-moralizing, like being a vegan and a feminist and this and that. The difference between middle and lower class morality, right? Very often, the destitute will say, you know what, I will do anything to survive. And I don't judge those who survive, right? And middle class want to go in contrast to them and say, oh, well, I am not poor, I'm a vegan, I'm a feminazi, and I am this, and I virtue signal that, and I virtue signal this, and, or I will wear 25,000 niqabs, and I am the most Muslim of the Muslims, and we have this, lower middle class mindset in the Middle East where they wear 10,000 niqabs, so I'm better than poor people because, I don't even step out of the home, I'm so fabulous, I'm such a Pharisee, look at me. Ew. You will not get to the top like that, obviously. So becoming elite, it's not that you have absolutely no morals, like a homeless person trying not to starve, might sell their body and so on, right? Which is sad, but but not like Pharisee and look at me, right? Again, I'm using Shira terms, right? Look at me, Pharisella, etc. Right? And so these ladies, right, that's middle class. Elite ladies, the women, or let's say not elite, but hypergamous, that go between the middle and upper class, they pack lightly. So they don't murder, they don't steal. 10 commandments, it's simple, but it's just what you need, right? Just keep it simple and keep it moving, right? You don't need 1,000 morals. Pack lightly and have an identity, because life goes one way then the other way, and when you forget who you are, the person who remembers who they are wins. If we look at Noor, at Love is Blind Habibi, right, she was so charismatic when she started, not a year later when she's just playing publicity games and no one respects her now. But when she started, let's look at her clip, shall we?
I don't do coffee dates. I don't do walking dates. I don't do last minute dates.
Yeah.
I don't do this. I need to see effort. He have to book very fine dining, like nice place.
You're looking for the ATM machine.
Please, أنا عم بحكي يا ريت ما.
So she don't need the advice of anyone. It's not only like sorry, تمشي. I don't know. Sorry, I'm not talking. I'm talking in general. No, sorry. Like maybe she's looking for ATM machine. The Lord ATM machine is blind. I don't know.
الانفعالات ريلاكس. عندكم شي حبة تحت اللسان لأنه حاسة في كرايز رح تصير.
ما شاء الله يا كوين أنت.
Notice how Noor is not a spineless jellyfish, and I talked about this last week, right? And that's what made people respect her. So in the beginning, Shafiq and he couldn't get her, so he rounded up other boys against her and all the pick-me's against her. So all the loser boys and pick-me's went against Noor, and Noor stood her ground. That is how she got so respected and became a superstar in the Middle East. Noor said no, and that's what made her iconic. If you're a pick-me and you follow whatever is popular, and you're not afraid to lose friends, you're not going to make friends. I can tell you this. I used to be 12 years old at one point, and I remember I wanted to be friends with other girls who were cool, right? So I arranged that my mother would allow me to babysit the kids with the cool girls who were 14. They were so cool. They're the most popular girls in my class, right? I just barely turned 12, and right before I had puberty, just like right before, and we were babysitting these kids. So I was a kid then, just like the kids I was babysitting, just like you, more mature. And the cool girls, they were talking about boys who they had a crush on and this other boy, and I could not even follow the conversation. So I tried really hard to be picked, and they were laughing at me, right? And I tried really hard to be picked and be liked when I was 12 years old. I told my mother after. She said, it's not how it works. You know, you're not the same maturity. One day you'll grow up and having more things in common. So when you get older, you will also find which boys are cute and which are not. You'll have something in common. Just not right now. Just have some patience. You know, it wasn't that long until I also hit puberty. And then I started having, I think their names were Karen, Jacqueline, or something like this. And, you know, they just, before I hit puberty, they just saw me as a kid, and I was trying to be cool. Now I look down, of course, what did I know? I was playing with dolls, and they were talking about boys. So we didn't have much in common, you know, and my desperation to be picked made it worse, right? And when I finally listened to my mom, and after I listened to my mother and stopped trying so hard to be picked, right? That is when I started making friends. Life is like a bar of wet soap. So the more you cling onto things or people, the more it escapes, right? So the more you try to cling on to someone or be picked or something like this, they look at your frame subconsciously as lower status, right? And don't want to have anything to do with you. So the harder you try to be picked, the less anyone wants to pick you, because their subconscious reads you as very low status, and their body will start to reject you. So don't try to be picked as much as you want to, because people subconsciously their bodies will tell them to disrespect you, to not value you. So if you act unbothered, like you don't care, that's when people want to be your friend, and that's what makes you magnetic. So listening to my mother, you know, first I didn't listen. I thought I knew what I was doing when I was 12 years old. I knew everything, right? And then I had so much trouble. Then I thought, you know what? My old mother, you know, maybe she's not that ignorant. I'll go and I'll try this. So then I just tried to, you know, be unbothered. And it worked like magic when I wasn't trying to be picked. So for the first time, you know, in my phys ed class, I was 12 but older, people wanted me on their team for the first time because I gave up trying hard to be picked. I thought, you know what, maybe my mother is right. Maybe I shouldn't care to be picked. And that's when people began to pick me, when I didn't care to be picked, and I stopped being a pick-me. The value of having a strong character is that this is the most seductive and charismatic thing you can do for yourself. Character is the ultimate form of selfishness. And selfishness is what gets females, not males, females ahead in life, right? Because females give birth, males don't, right? And as women, we cannot pour from an empty cup if you are always altruistic. That is for men, right? So for my Christian girlies, Jesus gave his life and was on a cross. Mary wasn't. There is a good reason for this, right? Because as women, men protect us, right? They give up their life for us. In a way, Jesus is a metaphor for a husband, and even the Bible says that a woman must submit to the gentleman, and the gentleman must give up his life to protect his family, like Jesus gave up his life for the church, right? So remember, you are not the gentleman in that equation. You are to revere and respect your husband because he provides and protects. And if there is a bear or something horrible, he will put his life in the line of fire to make sure that you survive. Just remember this, ladies. Your role is to respect the sacrifice of the gentleman who loves you to protect you. Your role isn't to go in the line of fire and get shot. On the topic of being shot, of course I'll go back to Erika Kirk, but when it comes to our values, right? For ladies, selfishness is important because ladies give birth to children. And what do they say on the airplane, right? They say you have to put on your face mask or your oxygen mask before your child so that your child survives, right? So ladies, pour into yourself first so that you can pour into others. And the best way to pour into ourselves is to have some small sense of ethics. If you overdo it, you will be so ethical that no one will want to be with you. But if you have a few key core principles, life will sway back and forth, but you'll be constant, like the North Star, and people will gravitate towards you. And having a small sense of ethics that you don't force onto others, and you don't virtue signal, you just live a small sense of ethics. It's the greatest and ultimate form of charisma. It's the greatest form of being an alpha female and one of the key secrets to seduction. Because there is nothing sexy in being a spineless jellyfish. At the same time, being moralizing is the greatest form of anti-seduction. If you're also, I can't go out and eat with you because I'm a vegan. And then, I also am gluten-free because I'm on this diet. And I can't participate in that because I'm a feminist. And I can't do this because of this value and that value. And I'm also this, and people think, I don't want to deal with this drama. This person is too much. They have too many ethics and values. I don't have time for that, right? So don't be too difficult, right? By having too many morals, ethics, and values. People call that middle class morality. When you just overdo it with morals and ethics, you have so many that you become a burden for anyone to socialize with you, so people stop socializing with you, right? Don't do that. Aristotle said everything is good in moderation. Don't overdo things and don't underdo them. But everything is good on moderation, erring on the side of abundance. I wish Erika Kirk listened to him. Last week, I talked about the importance of materialism. And we go back to Aristotle. So, Aristotle says, let me repeat, everything is good on moderation, erring on the side of abundance. Aristotle also said that any virtue, if gone to the extreme, becomes a vice. So materialism in women is a virtue in moderation. But if you have to unalive your husband and father of your children because there is a promise of millions of dollars, you, lady, have lost the plot. Let's look at a positive aspect of healthy materialism, shall we? And why it's there and why it's taught in hypergamy. At the same time, after this, I will go in the dark side of excessive materialism. There is a reason why religion warns us of the excess of materialism, of going too far, because some people will unalive others for money and die alone and miserable, right? So don't do that. But why is a little materialism in women essential to our happiness? I have a cute story. So there was a luxury bag influencer, I'm trying to remember her name. Some of you might have seen her content. And then, all of a sudden, her content disappeared. And people kept writing and asking, so she made a video and said she used to make content reviewing luxury handbags. She was bougie, so her husband and her loved to go to restaurants. He loved to spoil her, give her princess treatment and buy her luxury bags. And then they had a child. He was a provider, he's not a billionaire. And so she lost her interest in luxury handbags, and what they used to spend on luxury handbags went to diapers, nannies, childcare, etc. And they're so happy. So she's no longer as interested. However, it was not such a large price shock. And that is the cause of most divorce in the United States. Most divorce is initiated by women and over finances. And 70% of American women are pick-me's. There was a study that said that 70% of American women don't negotiate their salary in the workplace. So that means pick-me, right? So women are, oh, I'm so nice. I'm not like the other girls, blah, blah, blah. I have no standards. You don't need any. You know, what are your expenses when you're 20? Moisturizer and sunscreen, right? You don't even need makeup in your early 20s. As you get older, well, we need it. And then we need Botox, and we need serums, and we need a whole lot of other things, right? But, you know, you go from having no expenses to, whoops, all of a sudden the diapers, the clothing, the baby formula, the babysitters. And you need a break, right? So you need to have someone, he needs to pay a cook and a babysitter so that you can have a break if you don't have your parents there, right? And he goes from, you know, splitting a beer, you costing nothing, free kitty, to you being so expensive and costing everything and him needing another job. So he thinks you're a gold digger and you think he is Scrooge and exploiting you and stingy. He thinks you're a gold digger and you think he's stingy, and this causes fight. And when you're finally strong enough to go back to the workplace, you think, why on earth do you even need this, you know, dusty loser when you can go and work and you at least don't have to pretend to want to do him. At least that. At least you don't have all this extra feminine labor on top. Come stai? My name is Giovanni. Ooh, nice dog. Shame if something happened to it. So, you have this $1 house, it's falling apart. What a disaster, no. So, bene, you hire Mario and Luigi to fix your house, or, I find you good 5-star hotel on me for free under the sea, alright? Sleeping with the fishy. Like sleeping with the fishy? You'll get to it, then listen to me, you just hire Mario and Luigi, and your dog will be happy and alive. Capisci? Ciao, alla prossima, okay? So Utah is so much similar, right? I don't want to use stereotypes, but there's some parts of Italy where the locals, just everything is a handshake. So if, the person at the very top, you have trouble with him, it's going to be difficult living there. So in Utah, there are interesting articles about what happened when outsiders move in. Utah was chosen because of the nepotistic system. So, there was an interesting article where a gentleman outside of Utah moved to Utah. And he got a fishing license. And as a result, the cops knocked on his door the next day. What did he do? A fishing license. And they started to try to grill him. Because they were hoping that by grilling him, they would catch him doing something wrong, right? So if they caught him doing something wrong and got him, then they could get money for a ticket. Of course, they don't do it to locals, but if you're an outsider moving in, they have no scruples doing this to you. So, Utah is known for, being a bit more nepotistic than other states and having the state within the state. So if people from Charlie Kirk's organization bribe the people at the top, then they could just find some outsider, pin this on him, and no more Charlie Kirk, and he would be assassinated, right? It's the best place if you want to assassinate someone in the United States, and you have millions of dollars, right? The best place to do this in would be Utah, and you just give money as a political contribution and through a shell company and here and there to the right politicians, and they'll cover it up for you. So this journalist, not Candace Owens, but another journalist, wanted to see what was going on with the case, if there was a case and so on, because it just sounds so unlikely that this kid, unalive Charlie Kirk, he didn't. Anyway, so, she thought it couldn't be him, but she wanted to see this journalist. And she went and called different lawyers and see if they would take the case pro bono. She was surprised so many said, oh, this is the easiest case. Even a first-year law student could easily prove the innocence of this Tyler Robinson, right? So, and then she had to find, and then the one who was certified with death penalty, there was one in New York. And then she was warned not to call anyone in Utah. And she thought, why not? Why not call them and see if they'll take this case for free pro bono? So when she called all the lawyers in Utah, they started swearing at her and attacking her. She said, what did I do? Why are you so rude to me? And one of them even said that the judge would pick the person to be the lawyer for Tyler Robinson, and she said, well, you know, isn't that not so legal? See, well, technically, blah, blah, blah. And they were so rude to her, as if they were all together on this cover-up. Then others were talking about there was this person in the government there who was harassing his own staff over it, and it seems like there is a cover-up in the, you know, Utah community there of what's going on. Now we know that Tyler Robinson, he's gay and an outsider, right? And they tried to pin it on him. So next, what Joe Rogan said, it's suspicious that there are more than one person they tried to pin it on. First, they tried to pin it on someone who has a lot of criminal allegations he should be in jail for. So child porn and so on and so forth, that he should be in jail for this. And so when they tried to pin it on this one, then someone who filmed the incident said, no, it's a young person, you know, 20s, 30s, probably college age, maybe older, but, you know, under 40 for sure, right? And it's a professional sniper. So they went and they got the wrong person, all right? The witnesses who filmed even the shooting, they said that he was wearing a black mask, black pants, black tactical gear, and the photo that was shown was someone else. Now, they lied that Tyler Robinson, his family turned him in so on willingly, but rather the neighbor said that they suspect it's him, so rather than being just shot by the SWAT team, it's better, they have a higher chance of him staying alive if they turn him in, alright? If they turn him in, then because he's the suspect and they have the gun, you know, even though the family allegedly doesn't believe he's guilty, well, this way he'll be alive because the SWAT team can shoot him and the case closed. So the neighbor said, you know, who works with the government, said that, or retired sheriff, something of this sort, he told them, all right, you should turn him yourself in. So this was done under duress. It's not that the father gave this person up willingly. So the narrative the government is giving is utter rubbish. Clearly, the police are under a lot of pressure to close the case and pin it on some disenfranchised person, rather than say, oh, it was a professional sniper, someone ordered a hit, there was a hitman, we didn't know who did it, he got away, we just don't know, right? Because it would, you know, bring some inconvenient questions of who did it, what happened before Charlie Kirk's unaliving, and why. My uncle was a journalist. He won an international prize for being one of the bravest journalists in the world, Dr. Abdelaziz Al-Sakar. Like Charlie Kirk, they offered him a bribe 48 hours before they assassinated him. My uncle uncovered corruption in the Yemeni government. Not just the president, but everyone. And that's why he wanted to unalive him. We don't know exactly who ordered the hit, but we know it was hit. When I see this, I remember my uncle, the last time I talked to him for his graduation. It was, sorry. It was 2 decades ago. And it's as if it were yesterday. I remember him in the garden. I remember talking to him. I remember how happy he was. How proud he was of his children. It's some things never go away. Heroes never die. They live in our hearts, where they reside for eternity. So people wonder, oh, why do I take so personally when people say, oh, Candace Owens is crazy, right? Oh, I can't take her seriously, you know? Oh, I hope she stops embarrassing herself. Like, ladies, I hope you stop embarrassing yourselves. Because I see my uncle. I see my uncle speaking truth to power. And they assassinated him. And the pain just doesn't go away. I was in my teens when this happened. I'm in my 40s. I'm going to try to get through this as best I can. You know. The positive thing is I just have to think of how Erika Kirk managed to handle this funeral with Donald Trump and not ugly crying, you know, and you know, I can just laugh at her and I'll feel better. And you know what? It's not too soon. She's not grieving, you know. She's not grieving her husband, and I'm grieving my assassinated uncle. Over 20 years later, this just brings it back to life. I just can't. It's so painful. And Erika, it was my uncle. This was not my father. Your children will never forgive you. All right? They'll grow up, they will never forgive you. Again, everything here is allegedly for entertainment purposes only. Sorry, I'm trying to hold myself together and finish this video. So what we know is that Charlie Kirk was harassed by the same individuals who formed the Israel lobby. He took donations from the Israel lobby initially, and then he saw how much Donald Trump was harassed by this lobby, and he said he had had enough of their behavior, which he said was stereotypical. He's America first, so he didn't want the war in Iran. So allegedly he stormed in to see Trump. And I think, if I'm correct, the Vice President of the United States said that, even. And told him, you know, not to have war in Iran. He saw how badly Trump was harassed by American Israeli Political Action Committee, or AIPAC handlers, and how badly everyone else was harassed by them for taking their money in politics, and he thought he did not want to do anything like this.
Bibi's running around, this is a fact, I'm not guessing about this, because I talked to people he said it to, is running around the Middle East, his region, and his own country, and telling people, point blank, just stating it, I control the United States, I control Donald Trump. He's saying that. And again, I'm not guessing at all. That's a fact. And I dare them to say that's not true, because it is true and they know it's true. So I'm an American. How do you think it makes me feel? Even if
it's like time for you guys to wake up and say no more, draw a line in the sand. I don't care if you.
And he had an internal audit because, you know, if you owe those donors, they want results. And he was inviting Tucker, so he invited him to a TPUSA event, and then he was going to invite Candace Owens back. Of course, you can't take donations from Israel and invite people critical of Israel. They don't believe in free speech and won't take to it kindly. But he was shocked about the mafia-like reaction that he got.
2 days before he died, he lost a $2 million donation because he had publicly pledged to bring me to the next Turning Point conference in December. And he told me over the past couple of months he was losing a lot of donations over that pledge. They put out a flyer basically saying that I was going to be at this event giving a speech. And so he would text me and say, man, I'm really taking a lot of heat for this, and people are really mad. The American Jewish Committee called in a statement Charlie Kirk an anti-Semite and, quote, dangerous. Charlie Kirk, an anti-Semite. Yeah. He was not an anti-Semite. He was the opposite, and he was not dangerous. He was a great lover of people and a purveyor of peace. He was the opposite, and he was very stung by that. Those of us who've been called names for a long time are a little bit harder to offend. Charlie was deeply offended by that and expressed some of those feelings on Megyn Kelly's show and in other places. But that did not let up. The reason I'm telling this story is because he called me and then came to see me at my house about this topic. And I said to him every single time, look, it's, you know, I've got my own way to communicate my views. This is actually not the most important issue to me. There are lots of things I can talk about. I don't need to come to Turning Point. I can take a year off, no problem. I hated seeing how much he was suffering.
I have text messages, Megyn, calling me an anti-Semite.
It's like there's some rule you can't go there when it comes to Israel.
They're not Americans loyal to the United States and free speech. AIPAC, American Israel Political Action Committee, is loyal to Israel and Israeli or Likud Netanyahu right-wing values, which is support the leader right or wrong. Right? If you take money from people for supporting their leader right or wrong, who have a history of assassinating Western politicians like Count Bernadotte, well, good luck. So before we go into, did Erika Kirk do it? Did she unalive her husband for money? Let's go and take a look on her husband's views. He changed from being 100% pro-Israel, pro-Zionist to 180-degree the opposite before he was assassinated. And he expressed fear that he would be assassinated for this. Now, Tucker also commented, so this is something Charlie Kirk shared with him, the concerns of how rude pro-Israel donors treat Americans, right? So take a look.
During that short conflict, IDF officers in the Pentagon, foreign military officers in the Pentagon, and by the way, they're not the only foreign military officers in the Pentagon, a bunch of Israeli Defense Force officers in the Pentagon that week. And during that week, ask anyone who works at the Pentagon, they enraged American Pentagon staff by just barging into meetings, giving orders, making demands, and nobody did anything about it. How can a foreign military officer barge into military headquarters, even if invited, but barge into a meeting and start demanding, we want this, we want that, you need to get on this? Huh? The more you allow that kind of deeply unhealthy behavior, the more you're going to get.
Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. Now, I don't like generalizations. Not every Jewish person believes that. But it is true the Anti-Defamation League was part and parcel with Black Lives Matter. it is true that some of the largest financiers of left-wing, anti-white causes have been Jewish Americans. They went all in on woke, and it wasn't just ADL. It was some of the top Jewish organizations in the country that have done that. In fact, we have seen this with the recent retreat of Jewish donations that are no longer going to be administered to colleges, right? Mark Rowan, Leon Kopperman. Can we get that full list? It's very powerful. The part of the, so that's totally true. And by the way, Tucker Carlson reinforces this. So I'm going to kind of, it was quite a day on the internet. Tucker Carlson was interviewing Candace Owens. We have Candace Owens coming up next hour. And Tucker Carlson mentions that Jewish Americans have primarily been financing cultural Marxist ideas. We said this, by the way, last week, and people came after us.
We were on top of it.
We actually said it in a different way. We said, I'm glad that Jewish Americans are reconsidering their financing of cultural Marxism. And people misunderstood it intentionally and slandered us as being anti-Semites. But listen to this. Tucker Carlson is completely correct by saying this, that the philosophical foundation of anti-whiteness has been largely financed by Jewish donors in the country. And Jewish donors, they have a lot of explaining to do, a lot of decoupling to do, because Jewish donors have been the #1 funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies, cultural institutions, and nonprofits. This is a beast created by secular Jews. And now it's coming for Jews, and they're like, what on earth happened? And it's not just the colleges. It's the nonprofits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's all of it. It's like time for you guys to wake up and say, I gotta be careful the way I say this. They're gonna try to ethnically cleanse Gaza. Yep. I mean, that's, and I don't use that term lightly, okay? They're talking about basically removing 2.5 million people from there, okay? And honestly, they have a mandate to go seek justice and revenge. They do. This idea that they need to have a truce or a peace treaty, that's morally crap after you see women and children be burned alive and dragged to the streets. But there are some serious questions here, Patrick. And let me tell you, my pattern recognition over the last 5 years has become pretty sharp. COVID, Maui fires, Epstein. When I see a story and it doesn't click, our guts are usually right. So I've been to Israel many times. The whole country's a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still had the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that's an IDF soldier. Right? Finally, is a nuclear weapon against Iran a threat to America? Probably. Could be. A threat to Israel, but is it a threat to America? I mean, India has nuclear weapons. Pakistan has nuclear weapons. So is it worth a potential another war with Iran? And the people that are, let's just say, advocates for preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon by all means necessary, they're the same architects that were perfectly fine with the Iraq War, the same designers of the Iraq War. The primary way Iran can hurt this country is by sucking us into another Middle East quagmire, and they know it. And Iran would have the potential to be the worst Middle East quagmire of all time. Iran has 90 million people. That's more than 3 times as big as Iraq was when we invaded 22 years ago. It's larger than both Afghanistan and Iraq combined, both in population and in area. Iraq was at least mostly a flat country. It's a bunch of cities along a couple rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. Iran isn't like that. It's almost all mountains. Iran has spent decades preparing specifically for war with the United States. Their military has lots of weapons designed for fighting a much stronger adversary. They have a lot of drones, a lot of speedboats, a lot of cheap, expendable weapons. They're far more formidable than Iraq or the Taliban were. And I seriously want your thoughts. Email me, freedom@charliekirk.com. Would you say it's a good idea to use military force to strike potential Iranian nuclear targets? My whole life, I've been told that Iran is getting a bomb. Iran is getting a bomb. Iran is getting a bomb. Iran is getting a nuclear bomb. And yet here in 2025, they do not have a nuclear bomb. So why should we trust the American intelligence without verifying it?
They say that Charlie Kirk was offered an infusion of $150 million by Israel.
I did find a People magazine article that talked about Erika Kirk's mom and her being a single mom, and this woman was raised by a girl boss. She was working as a girl boss. She meets Charlie Kirk, all of a sudden gets married, starts a family, starts preaching that motherhood's the most important thing, that women shouldn't focus on careers. And, that like she shifted and changed her whole view and decided that she was going to be a wife and a mother, and that was going to be her whole thing, that career wasn't really where her focus was anymore. All of a sudden her husband's killed and she's back to girl boss, she's back to CEO. Does anybody else find that suspicious? That she...
Erika Kirk must be so happy she no longer has to sleep with her husband that she never found attractive. Oof. And doesn't have to pretend she's Christian, housewife, tradwife anymore. Whew, what a relief. She's so happy she can finally be the strong, independent CEO feminist woman like her mother. Whew, who was a single mother, boss babe, career woman who was divorced. And she's so happy she can do this and be her true, real self. Because she only pretended to like Charlie Kirk and be a housewife because she knew women in North America don't get to the top on their own. They need to marry a rising star if they want to have a successful career. My previous video talked about her career and the possibility of her being a yacht girl, how she made her money, and also about her Romanian charity. At 1450 of my old video, you can see the allegations of Erika Kirk's charity. Now, she worked with this charity at the time where Trump was friends with Epstein, where allegedly she was working as talent recruitment for the Trump organization. Now, there's some allegations that she denied it. She removed it from her biography on Wikipedia, which is suspicious, because then how did she make her money as a model in New York? Was she a yacht girl and an escort? I mean, Olivia Culpo could only survive by, living with her boyfriend Nick Jonas. I mean, why would you remove that fact that you were able to pay for your own rent in New York City and risk looking like an escort? Unless you were scared of something worse. Erika Kirk has a video on her charity, which is Roman Angels, where she was thanking this colonel who ran a child brothel in Devesilu in Romania. And there were a few girls who were raped and then disappeared. Who are defending Erika Kirk are special kind of stupid. So in Eastern Europe, if you give your trust for free to someone, it's like giving free kitty, free trust. People should prove trust. And I'm sorry, but the most vulnerable people in the world would be orphan teenage girls. And in a third world country where they're impoverished, and you connect them with NATO soldiers who have money and power, and absolute power on the military base, giving them gifts, right? Is it not plausible? Like, why wouldn't you think these desperate girls would not slip their phone number and they see this handsome young soldier who's 19 and would go to the military base for a date? And it's not dates that would happen then, they could easily get trafficked, right? So you don't connect orphanages where people are vulnerable to soldiers and not expect a brothel to come out of it. Like, I'm sorry. So teenage girls from allegedly Erika Kirk's orphanage, Alexandra Marshinu, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, and Luisa Melensu were disappeared, and Alexandra Marshinu managed to call the police saying that she was raped for multiple days and was at that base. And when they came to that base, she was disappeared. And also, those bases are sovereign American territory. Then they came to an agreement that they won't investigate. So they probably shot her, right? And then, buried her, took her body wherever, right? Shot both of them, probably. That's probably what happened, when people were asking about these girls. So, if you can look at my previous video for sources, Romanian sources, that in this particular base that they were working with, there was a child brothel uncovered, and you can check all this out. That is so dark. And that is why, you know, Erika Kirk looks like she's used to death because, you know, it's not her first incidents if all of these allegations were true. So, also, she said, you can see in my previous video, how she really wanted to go on this yacht and be a yacht girl, but the problem was, before she won Miss Arizona, she wasn't famous enough. That was the only thing that prevented her from being a yacht girl, and she actually had the audacity to say this on national stage, and you can see this in my previous video. It's at the beginning, and the link is below. If you look at back-to-back videos of Erika with Charlie Kirk talking about family and the submission that she has to do as a Christian housewife, this is how joyful and genuinely excited she is to finally be CEO. And she's so happy her husband is no longer there and doesn't have to sleep with him. Just watch the videos back to back of, you know, her facial expressions of how happy and joyful she is now compared to how she was before while she was married to her husband. This is disturbing, right? I do say you shouldn't marry for chemistry, right? Because you will look like an idiot and you will be chasing, and if you're chasing, then he'll be laid back and not treat you right. And so we should not marry the man we have the most chemistry with, but the best father for our children, the one who treats us right. But then we should appreciate him, and I don't think she appreciated the amazing father that Charlie Kirk was for his children.
I love you.
I love you too. Gigi, you don't just get to get everything you want. Okay. Well, you have to be on very good behavior to get such a thing like this. Okay? Hold on, hold on. You have to behave well.
Did you earn it?
I know, but what did you do for it? Have you been a good girl? Okay, I'll get it for you.
Money comes and goes. One day you have millions, the next day it's gone. And then you can always build it back. But you cannot bring the dead back to life. Once the father of your children is gone, your children will never see him again. And if he is a decent person, it's just priceless. Sorry. Again, I don't have any evidence that Erika Kirk unalived her husband at the point of making this video. I'm just autistic, a former intelligence analyst, and this is my gut instinct based on her behavior and based on someone who is excessively materialistic, gone too far with this, excessively ambitious. And Charlie Kirk was a highly ethical person in contrast, and he made an ethical stance saying no, that he's not going to take a lot of money just to become a slave and be bullied and pushed around, that he will find another way and not take Israel donation money. A girl who says she loves to go on yachts is someone who is willing to sell her body and her ethics for a price, right? So she would have a rather different stance than her husband. And that is where Erika Kirk is losing the plot. The whole point of marrying for money instead of love is not the physical cash, right? Because after you have enough handbags, you don't care. After you have enough money, it becomes ones and zeros. The point of marrying up is you have the best father for your children. And Charlie Kirk was an amazing father. That's much better than marrying a hot, sexy, but broke, dusty loser who's just promises, right? But you end up paying for everything and resenting him and all this stuff. And now they don't even marry. They just promise, they'll marry you one day. The point is to grow into love of someone who will treat you well, who's responsible and taking care of your children. It's not having 10 million is better than 1 million. And there's this gross, money Olympics that, oh, my ring is bigger than your ring, blah, blah, blah. My, fiance is richer than your husband. That's disgusting. That does not help anyone. The point is he a good, capable provider, father? Yes or no? And if you bump off a provider father in hopes of getting maybe Elon Musk, you leave your children without their father that they loved and who loved them, and just shame on you. This sort of materialism is disgusting. Asma Assad. Now, what we do know is that Bashar Assad was poisoned in Russia, and he will not let his wife or kids, only his brother in the hospital. We know this for a fact. And people allege that the wife may have assassinated him, and Putin doesn't care because he has a relationship with the new government of Syria.
They told you that Erika Kirk was continuing Charlie Kirk's legacy, and the truth is she's not. Right when Charlie started questioning a specific nation, they took him out. Almost like they just wiped it away, because he was getting too close to the truth. Erika Kirk, the grieving widow who never once smudged her dark eyeshadow, now says the show will go on, and she forgives him. She forgives the man who we know isn't even probably the guy. And guess what? Her father worked for Raytheon's Israeli division. This isn't Charlie's legacy. And here's what we're not supposed to talk about. There is no coroner's report, no church funeral, no burial site, no official autopsy, no ballistics report, and no death certificate. The entire crime scene was destroyed, evidence erased, a private jet radar off 12 minutes away, 20 minutes after Charlie was unalived, and the weapon was found on land owned by Palantir. Kash Patel fired multiple heads of the FBI in that region days before September 10th. But sure, Erika Kirk is so strong on podcasts, leaving her kids with a nanny after they watched their father's life be taken. And just 48 hours after Charlie's assassination, they marketed your grief for money and power. They turned this man's life being taken into a business and called it legacy.
Ladies, you don't need to play dirty to be desired. After beauty, the most desirable quality is loyalty and having a spine. Yes, in the short term, evil always wins. But in the long term, the devil collects interest. In my personal experience, most evil people got away with everything in the short term. But in the long term, if they keep behaving and it's a pattern, they will offend and hurt enough of the wrong people. And there is usually a consequence in the long term for their actions, right? So I don't recommend living a life of crime or going around hurting lots of people. There is nothing wrong in defending yourself. But if people do nothing wrong, and let's say you have a jealousy problem and attack everyone you envy who did nothing to you, they will eventually all gang up on you. So integrity does matter in the level up journey. If you lie all the time, like Shira 7 says, and some sprinkle girlies believe in not having integrity, people are not stupid. In the long term, they see this poverty mindset, they see this short-term thinking, they catch on to it, and they block you. In the long term, alright, people who have poverty mindset, as in short-term thinking and just take advantage or hurt others, attack people all the time unprovoked, etc., etc., don't do their inner work, remain unhealed, in the long term, people gang up on them to defend themselves. And these people do get hurt in the long term. I'm not saying that you should be somebody's karma, right? However, if you keep on, this is what I noticed actually. My lawyer was telling me that people who harass people don't only go after one person. It's a pattern, it's a character trait because they're used to getting away with it. But eventually they will mess with the wrong person, and the wrong person will create a consequence. Or they mess with enough people, these people will find each other and band together and hurt and create a consequence to the bad person. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu thinks it's still the 1990s and is so arrogant. And he thinks he can just censor and bully and be a jerk and maybe offer a bribe with someone with a materialistic wife, and she'll take care of the problem, right? However, the internet is there, and the internet will uncover the truth, which is very different. Before, there were few people, and 6 people would basically control the media. And if you had different narrative, they would gaslight you and lie that you're crazy, all right? Oh, conspiracy theorist, right? Whenever there is corruption. However, today, there are so many podcasters, you cannot stop it. And if you censor the internet, you get attacked. So, the truth of who did it will come out this way or that way. However, what I think is Erika Kirk's reaction to the entire assassination of her husband, putting her career, is highly inappropriate and draws suspicion. Why do you care that the organization keeps moving forward and doesn't say anything anti-Israel after? Is she asking after doing this, it's running, now I'm a good girl, I did what I promised, where's my money? This is literally how she's coming across. Now, I'm not saying she did it, but I'm saying that's how it's looking. So, ladies, how do you marry a provider in a way that's compatible with being able to sleep at night? I'm the person who says a little bit of narcissism and sociopathy and just dark triad traits, tiny bit of it, will help you get ahead in life. It does, right? So let's say I learned from the Trump pageant a little narcissism, that everyone wants to be me or marry me. When I say this, I develop confidence. But if I overdo it, I hurt myself and others. So no, really go into dark triad traits. You will only hurt yourself and others if you are too obsessed with them. Same with materialism, same with anything in life. It's all about balance. So how do you win without losing your ethics on your level up journey to having a soft life? My first tip is don't look at it as gold digging, but value aligning. You want to align your values as a feminine lady with a provider who wants to provide and protect a feminine woman to create a family. When the focus is the family and not the handbags, things will go right. Number 2, don't lower your standards so that, I'm spiritual or this or that. Instead, focus on your logical goal. As a responsible potential future mother, if you sleep with someone, you might have kids. So before you date, think, can he be a good father should something happen? If he's that handsome musician who has a terrible weed habit and perhaps does some drugs here and then he lives with 10 roommates and works part-time and sings part-time in his band and is devilishly, rakishly handsome. That's not who you should be dating. It's much better to truly grow into love. Tip is network is not net worth all the time. Standards are lower than the Titanic in the West, and I know you need to network, but limit your exposure to pygmasias, right? And limit your exposure to women who will lower their standards and do anything to grab that bag and so on, right? And, spend less time with spineless jellyfish, because those women will always backstab you. One lady said, you know how it is with the unwritten rules of work, of compliance and corporate slavery, in white-collar work in North America, all right? The United States specifically for her. So you know how it is, with all these in corporate, right? Whenever she has a spine or ethics or values, she's gaslit and treated like she's crazy. For having any integrity whatsoever, what should she do? And my advice is to only make online friends. If you can find someone in person who aligns with you, great. And not cut people off, but just have acquaintances and fill your life with content and people that aligns with you. Even if your only friends are podcasts and books, that will raise your vibration, and then you will find this in the real life. So if you want to have a spine and get ahead, the biggest problem, I think the biggest obstacle women have to getting ahead in hypergamy is the desperation to have female friends. And the first thing you should do is get rid of all your friends. Get rid of your family. I'm not saying completely, but unless someone aligns with you, keep your distance. If it's an acquaintance, etc., get rid of them, right? If it's family, don't get rid of family, obviously, but just, talk to them less often. And that space you fill with things that are higher energy and higher vibration. This is why after all of this, I'm doing an energy cleanse, and I will be doing videos to up our energetic frequency, luxury content, just fun things, positivity, so that our energy frequency is up and the frequency of money is a higher energetic frequency. You do have to audit your energy. If you're around unethical people, that's who you will attract. And then not all men cheat, right? My husband doesn't. A lot of successful men do not cheat. Just as many affluent men cheat as those who don't. So it's a matter of what you seek, right? What you seek, you shall find. There are as many cheater affluent men, there are as many in Epstein Island as they're loyal to their wife there. There is everything in the elite that you should seek. If you want someone in the elite who's loyal, they're there. If you want someone who's a cheater, they're there. There is everything there. If you lower your standards, you'll find a rich dusty. So alignment and changing your vibration and energetic frequency is the key to success there. And I also recommend having a spine, because today this is a trend and then tomorrow the opposite is a trend. And then, you'll be forgotten and always behind the curve. But if you're true to your core and pack lightly, you will have a lot of charisma and a strong frame that you will be magnetic, seductive, and attract others. The most repulsive energy in seduction is being a pick-me, because you have this frame. Pick-me, I'm this, but it's not attractive, right? Having confidence in your beliefs, but not having way too many that you're a nuisance. This is what's seductive and attractive. Level up is not about cheating the system and being evil to get ahead. And I know when you see this, it can be so demoralizing. The soft life is not about being evil and compromising everything to get ahead, but rather aligning your life with joy and purpose so that everything you attract works for you and you are on the same frequency. So with everyone we can learn something, even if we disagree with how they got to the top. There is always a quality we can learn, even if we disagree with people. Please write in the comments below a favorite level up queen that I have overlooked or haven't covered that you might suggest I'll cover in the future. Please like or hate, share and subscribe, and do comment below. Ciao.